Next item, please.
Next item, citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action who are signed in by 7:10 p.m. by submitting a blue card to the board secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. There is a 3-minute time limit on comments made to the board. A blue card employee, Nicole Alward from Livonia, would like to come to speak to the board about library media classes.
Good evening. I am the librarian at Edsel Ford High School and the library media resource teacher. I've only been with Dearborn Schools for about 6 years, but after a lifetime of moving around, I am happy to call Dearborn Schools home. I'm here tonight to advocate for the library media program. Working in the library has a lot of unique challenges, but one of the biggest is that people don't truly know the role of a teacher librarian. I didn't really understand it until I had the job myself. The mission of the Dearborn Public Schools Library Media Program is to prepare students and staff to be effective users of information, to instill a love of reading, and to encourage lifelong learning. One of the most confusing things about our job title, media specialist, school librarian, teacher librarian, they all mean the same thing. We are all certified teachers. A lot of people, even that work in our buildings, don't know that. The media certification is only available at the graduate level, so most librarians are also certified in a second area. And we also work with media secretaries in the library, and their role is vital to our success, but it is very different. Their role is more of a clerical management of the library, where they're handling the book check-in, check-out, and shelving. They don't teach classes where we do teach classes, and we are more responsible for the collection development. I think the most accurate job title is teacher librarian because it includes both aspects of our job. At the elementary level, we teach library media classes that are part of the specials rotation. At the secondary level, we work with individual students, schedule class visits to the library, and collaborate with classroom teachers. Last month, there was a great presentation about the complexities of scheduling specials, and I understand that challenge more than most. We cover 30 schools with 13.2 FTEs. All of our secondary librarians also are assigned to elementary schools. Trying to cover everything is extremely difficult. Being spread so thin has caused us to move librarians from school to school frequently, which is hard on both students and librarians. What stood out to me last month was that media was the only special area on the chart that had a number smaller than 1. What that means is that for half of the year, half of the elementary students do not have access to a librarian at all this year. While the debate about what the 5th media or special should be, it seems that we should first make sure all of our schools have a full year of media. We're very excited to teach classes for all grade levels for the first time in about 15 years. But the cost is that we only get to see them for half of the school year. We had to cut our curriculum in half for the first, second, and third grades, and our first semester students don't want the librarian to leave, but we know that we have to go to cover those schools that don't have anyone this semester. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, community member Jamila Hassan from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about transportation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. مساء الخير، أنا أخت الطالبة هوى حسن. نحن جايين جداد لهون، يعني صار لنا هون بالبلد شي شهرين. أختي طالبة بمدرسة إتسلفورد هاي سكول، فنحن بنعاني إنه هي ما عندنا مواصلات تجي تاخدها من البيت، فنحن بالمشي البيت بعيد 1.5 ساعة. فما عندنا مواصلات، يعني لا وضعنا بيسمح نجيب سيارة ولا حدا بيعرف يسوق حتى لو كان فيه، فنحن جايين من وضع سيء، فما بدنا وضعنا يكون هون كمان سيء. فهي كمان مرة راحت مشي، مرتين على المدرسة، ساعة ونص مشي، ضلت مريضة بالبيت 10 أيام. وهلا الجو بارد وما في، يعني الجو بارد وما فيها تروح كل يوم لأنه في ثلج وفي مطر. وكمان بدي أقول إنه أحيانا حتى لما بتتأخر هذا الشيء بيتسجل عليه إنه هي البنت بتغيب، بفوت بسجلها إنه هي الطالبة بتغيب. وحتى إجانا كذا مرة شكوى وبيطلبونا إنه ليش هي البنت بتتأخر، فهذا الشيء مو بإيدنا. ونحن من لما أجينا بنطلب المساعدة وبنطلب حل لهالمشكلة وما لقينا أي حل لهلا. Thank you so much.
So Hiba Hassan, they are new to the country. Her sister goes to Edsel Ford, and there is no transportation from their house to the school. They've been asking for help a lot. Walking distance between their school and the house is an hour and a half. They are newcomer. They came from a very hard conditions. They cannot afford buying a car. Even if they can have a car, there is no one can drive. Her absence is really affecting her attendance. We are receiving phone calls from schools asking why she's absent all the time. She walked to school twice. Every time it's an hour and a half walking distance, and she was sick for 10 days. With the weather and the rain and the snow, there is no way she can walk to school, and we are asking to have some help with transportation.
Thank you.
Next, Ibtisam Al-Hussein from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about transportation.
السلام عليكم. أنا عندي ولدين محمد وبدر، مدرسة السنفورد. المدرسة تبعد عنا 10 دقائق بالسيارة، وإحنا ما معنا سيارة. ولادي لما يجوا مشي ساعة يوصلون على المدرسة، وصار الجو برد وإحنا بدنا باص ليهم بياخذهم ويجيبهم.
My two kids, Muhammad and Badr, go to Edsel Ford. Our house is 10 minutes drive from the school, but we do not have a car. We cannot afford a car. It takes them an hour to go to school and come back home. Now with the weather changing and winter coming, we really need if you can provide bus for my kids.
Thank you.
Next, Fatina Fakuri from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about transportation.
مساء الخير. أنا كمان نفس الوضع. أولادي بنتي الكبيرة بأتسل فورد. الأريا اللي عنا نحن عنواننا بحد لونج إليمنتري سكول. الأريا ما في مواصلات هناك. فأنا إجا زوجي من سنة، هن مواطنين أمريكيين. جينا من سنة، وفترة شهرين كان هو وولادي. توفى زوجي وجيت بفيزا سريعة على أمريكا. تعرف الإجراءات الجرين كارت والهول بتاخد وقت، والدفتر السواق بتاخد وقت. فكان هديك السنة ما عندنا مشكلة. كانت الكبيرة كانت بأوألس ماس والصغار بلونج. كان يعني البيت قريب للمدرسة. نتفاجأ هديك السنة إنه أول السنة إنه البيت بيبعد عن المدرسة 2 مايل وشوي، يعني ساعة، أكتر من ساعة مشي. فبيقولوا لنا إنه ما في حل. يعني أنا بستغرب إنه كيف أولاد بده يمشوا بهالبرد. قال بيقولوا لأنه ما في طريق سريع هناك، هاي واي، مع إنه تلغراف رود يعني منه هالقد كتير خطير، يعني لا يعتبر آمن. فهذه هي المشكلة كنا عم نعاني منها. وكذا يعني الاريا اللي عنا لحد مدرسة لونج إليمنتري إنه ما في عندهم باص ويوصل ياخدهم على أتسل فورد. حتى طلبوا مني إنه أنا جيت لهون كمان لأعرف بدي حل. قالوا لي إنه فيها تدرس أونلاين. كيف ولد بيدرس أونلاين بعده صار له سنة هون بأمريكا؟ يعني ما لازم يدرس أونلاين، لازم يتعرف على المناهج، يكون حضور، يعني لازم يحضر حضور. هيدي وشكرا. Thank you so much.
Same issue of transportation. My oldest daughter go to Edsel Ford. I came last year after my husband passed away. So my husband was living here with my two daughters who are American citizen. Then he passed away. I came in a rush. You know, all the paperwork and documentation need a lot of time. Green card, a driving license, that's all need a lot of work and so much time. So we did not have this problem before because my kids used to go to Long Elementary and Smith, and it's a good walking distance from the school right now. My daughter go to Edsel Ford. It's over 2 miles from the school from the house, but it's about an hour driving. When I came here to ask for help, they told me put her online, and that's not an option for a newcomer student to study online. I also asked for transportation before, and they said Telegraph is not a main road, it's not a highway, but it is a really dangerous place, street to pass by student by themselves. Everyone living around Long Elementary has this problem to having transportation from that area to Edsel Ford.
The last card, Asma Atman from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about transportation.
مرحبا. أنا ما عندي أطفال بالمدرسة، بس أنا جاي مشان مشكلتهم إنه هن ما عندهم سيارة. أنا 15 شهر حسافر، أنا اللي عم ساعدهم، عم باخذ الأولاد وجيبهم، بس مشكلتهم ما حدا عم يساعدهم. إذا أنا سافرت واضطريت أسافر مين حيساعدهم؟ وفي مشكلة تانية كمان عم يواجهوها اللاجئين وغير اللاجئين، يعني في كمان سيتيزن بنفس المنطقة ما في حدا يساعدهم. فإذا أنا سافرت مين حيساعد الأهالي؟ وفي مشكلة تانية كمان، الأولاد اللي عم يتأخروا في رافعين عليهم محكمة إنه لازم يداوموا، يعني يروحوا على المحكمة. شو ذنب الأهالي؟ شو ذنب يعني أنا جاية يعني طالبة مساعدتكم. أنا كمان كنت عم ساعدهم، بس أنا لأن مع الأسف الشديد حسافر. يعني هلا الأهالي في منهم عم يقعدوا يجي يشتكوا لي، عم يبكوا صراحة، بدهم مساعدتكم. أنا جاي من في كان أهالي كمان بدهم يجوا، بس لأنه سيارتي مو واسعة جبت 5 عوائل، بس هن طلبوا العوائل اللي ما اجوا، نحن طالبين انك انت تروحي تحكي باسمنا. فبتشكركم ويعني طالبة مساعدتكم، لأنه إذا أنا سافرت مين حيساعدون؟ وإذا غابوا الأولاد كمان، هاي مو مشكلتي أنا كمان، مشكلة الكل، مشكلة المجتمع، لازم أنتوا تساعدون. أنا من 7 سنين 8 سنين جيت واجهت نفس المشكلة. في ناس يعني مثلكم ساعدوني وجابوا لهم الباص، لحد الآن الباص عم ياخذون. بليز تساعدوا الأهالي، وشكرا لكم.
Mrs. Asma Ahmed, I don't have children in Dearborn Public Schools, but I'm here to support the parents. I am the one who provide their kids with transportation from and to school. However, I'm traveling on the 15th of the month. So when I leave, there is no one to take the kids to school or bring them back. This is a big problem that's facing refugees and also citizens who live around Long area. There is no transportation, and the kids are receiving letters for truancy because they've been absent a lot. This is a big issue we are facing. Parents are coming to me asking me for help. They are crying. There's a lot of parents and families would like to be here today, but I couldn't bring them because my car fit only the families that I have right now. And they asked me to ask you for help. I faced this problem when I first came 7 years ago, and a lot of parents talked to you, and people like yourself helped us, and they managed to have a bus that transport our kids from the area to Edsel Ford. Thank you so much for your support and help. And this is a community issue. We are looking forward to your help.
We under board follow?
Yes.
Yes, you did a great job translating, so thank you. And I want you to translate that this has been an issue for a long, long time. We've dealt with it. Every time we talk about boundaries and reallocating boundaries, that issue comes up. Telegraph is a main road. No, that's not in question. Telegraph is a main road. Our policy, I don't have the policy in front of me. If I knew this was coming up, I would have had that, but I don't have the policy. It's a distance from the school that we go by. So please explain that. With all that being said, I did reach out. I didn't mean to interrupt one of the ladies. I reached out to Dr. Maleko, and he is aware of the situation, and his team is on it. There are probably some temporary solutions we can do. Sending a bus is just not going to be. I don't think it's going to be happening, but there probably is some temporary solutions that we can get to, and I'm going to have Dr. Maleko address that right now, please. Well, did you want to translate that then? Okay, let her give her a chance.
الموضوع مشكلة كبيرة ونحن بنعرف إنه
Microphone, please.
نعرف إنه موجودة المشكلة وكثير من الأهالي عم يعانوا منها. نحن معكم إنه تلغراف هو شارع رئيسي، شارع خطر، إنه الأطفال يقطعوا الشارع هذا شيء كتير خطر، لكن مع تغيير الحدود الجغرافية للمدارس دائما بنعاني من هاي المشكلة. في قانون خاص للمواصلات بيحدد المسافة اللي بيمشي فيها الطفل أو المسافة اللي بتكون مسافة سير بين المدرسة والبيت، وهي تقريبا مايل ونص. يعني كل شخص بيعيش خارج الميل ونص ممكن يكون في له مواصلات، لكن ما بتنطبق على كل المدارس. فهذا الموضوع نحن عم نعاني منه، إنه يكون في عنا باص حاليا نقدر نحط باص للمنطقة. هذا الشيء ما لنا شايفين إنه ممكن يصير يعني حاليا، لكن في ممكن حلول مؤقتة تصير. المشرف العام الدكتور ماليكو عنده علم بالموضوع، وعم نحاول نلاقي حلول إنها تساعد الأهالي ياخذوا الأولاد من وللمدرسة بطريقة آمنة، لأنه مثل ما قلنا تلغراف هو شارع كتير خطير، ونحن عم نحاول نلاقي حل له.
Dr. Maleko.
Thank you. So obviously we appreciate some of the hardships that you're going through in dealing with transportation. We're always trying to assist and help our students and our families. It is a very complicated issue. It's not a simple issue. For transportation by law is only required for special education. General education is not. It is a high cost, and it also we have shortages. So those are just some realities. It's not excuses, these are realities we're facing. If we were to look at buses, for example, we would have to open up by state law, and Vice President Berry had mentioned about the distance. So it's 1.5 miles for elementary and middle, and then we call it safety busing locations for high school. But those would have to go through a whole committee. And every year, I can tell you, I get multiple requests for transportation changes. So you could look at long, but you'd be looking at really the whole district and the cost. So it's a very complicated thing. However, we are going to try to help. I know one family reached out to us, and Ms. Aldubailey and Mr. Andrews is attempting to find other forms of transportation that we could support. And we've done that in the past with immigrant or refugee families. And so we will do that. And I believe that Ms. Aldubailey is working on a solution to that. But if it were a bus that were to come in, let's just say, it wouldn't happen soon because we'd have to go through this whole complicated committee process per state law. But we are going to try to help the families.
نحن متفاهمين المشاكل اللي عم تواجهوها، عم نحاول المساعدة بأكبر قدر ممكن الأهالي والطلاب بنفس الوقت، لكن الوضع معقد. قانونياً الأطفال اللي بيحق لهم مواصلات فقط هن الأطفال اللي عندهم احتياجات خاصة، لكن نحن بنقدم المواصلات للطلاب اللي عنا، هذا مشروع كتير مكلف لنا. لنقدر إنه نحن نغير من القانون لازم نألف لجنة، وهي اللجنة بدها تاخد وقت كبير وندرس ميزانية وناخد موافقة لحتى نقدر نعمل باصات أو نضيف باصات جديدة. لهيك هذا الموضوع كتير معقد وصعب، وما رح يصير بالسهولة اللي نحن عم نتخيلها أو بالسرعة اللي نحن عم نتخيلها. مثل ما قلنا الموضوع لأنه في قانون 1.5 ميل بيقدروا يمشوا على من البيت للمدرسة، وهي تعتبر مسافة سير على الأقدام، ما بنقدر نأمن لها مواصلات. لكن نحن على علم ببعض الأسر اللي بحاجة للمساعدة. السيدة دبيلي هي رئيسة قسم تعليم اللغة الإنجليزية كلغة ثانية، وأشخاص آخرين موجودين بالمدارس وعنا هون بالقطاع. عم نحاول نلاقي طرق إنه نساعد الأهالي لحتى ياخذوا الأولاد ويجيبوهم من المدرسة، لكن بدنا نكون واقعيين معكم إنه نقدر نجيب باص نحطه بهاي المنطقة، هذا شيء كتير صعب. Okay, over 2 miles.
We'll look into that. Do we have contact information?
Okay, I can take it.
If you could.
I can get it. Yeah, I can get it. Chicago Street in
Yeah, we've looked at them before. We
Yeah.
will relay the message.
اوكي سو رح ناخذ معلومات حضراتكم ورح نطلع على الموضوع ونخبركم نحكي معكم. سو هلا قبل ما تروحوا بس اعطوني ارقام التليفونات والاسماء.
طيب اوكي اذا انا سافرت فيها مثلا اكبر مثال اما رافعين عليها مثلا محكمه. طيب هي شو ذنبها؟ شو ذنبها؟ طيب هدول الطلاب اللي ما بيقدروا يجوا شو ذنبهم؟ شو ذنبهم يعني عم تقولوا القانون على راسنا، على راس الكل القانون يمشي، بس شو ذنب العوائل اللي ما بيقدروا يساعدوا؟ شو ذنبهم؟
سو بعتوا له مخالفتين على البيت.
انا حكيت مع المدرسه المديره قال ما في شيء حتجي مخالفه ثانيه لازم يعني ما بيقدروا شو لازم تروح على المحكمه.
And that was mentioned by the first speaker,
Yeah.
I believe. So she's talking about
Yeah, the
Go ahead,
ticket.
go ahead.
Yeah, so there is a problem. Parents are facing. The school is issuing tickets for them, and one of the family, the lady sitting behind her, her daughter already got one warning, the first warning letter, with the second warning letter, and then there is an officer will go and visit, and they will be sent to the court. So why is the parents handling all of this if it's our problem? We are not providing transportation.
So
So
these
it's
would
through
situations we would have to
institutions.
contact individually, like the unique circumstances that wouldn't be appropriate for us to solve here. We need to, if we can get the
Yes.
contact information, we'll make sure our staff gets in contact with the families and we'll help them out.
stay up here just in case. Trustee Mosib?
Dr. Maliko, I was just going to mention if there are some state resources for refugees. I know one of the speakers mentioned if they're refugee status, then there are some resources both on the state level and the federal level, and I'd like to look into ways if we can reach out and get some of these funds to help with this transportation issue, perhaps.
And I know that, I think that's part of what Ms. Alda Bailey is looking into, and she has in her, Ms. Mosellam, who works with refugees, and we, take pride in helping. But the question then becomes whether certain people are qualified as refugee, and so that becomes complicated too, because if you're not, then some of that funding is not available, my understanding from Ms. Alda Bailey. So if they're immigrants and they're not considered refugees, we are able to try to help out in other ways. But I appreciate that, Trustee Moses. Yes.
Go ahead, translate, please.
So المشكلة اللي حضرتك ذكرتيها مشكلة منفردة، فنحن مثل ما قلت لك رح ناخذ المعلومات منكم ورح يتصل فيكم شخص بالأهالي من القطاع التعليمي وبنشوف المشكلة وبناخذ المعلومات وبنحاول نساعد الأهالي بأكبر قدر. شيء ثاني نحن عم نطلع عليه إنه في موارد بتجي خاصة للاجئين اللي عم يجوا على البلد، لكن كمان كل قانون له تعقيداته، يعني ممكن يكونوا داخلين لجوء لكن سقطت عنهم صفة اللجوء، ففي بعض التمويل بيجي لنقدر نساعد فيه. لازم نطلع على حالة كل عائلة إذا ما زالوا مدرجين تحت هذا البند، إذا فينا نقدر نساعدهم عبر بعض المصادر أو الوكالات الخاصة باللاجئين أو لا. بس مثل ما قلنا اعطوني أرقامكم قبل ما تروحوا وإن شاء الله بنحكي معكم. Thank you so much.
Okay, anybody else under board follow-up? Dr. Maliko?
Just one, I know Ms. Elward came up. I just want to congratulate her on Michigan Librarian of the Year. I know we put it out on social media. So.
Trustee Petrikov.
As a follow-up to that too, Ms. Howard, I met recently with the new hire for the city of Dearborn, the new library director. And I hope that you are able to take any advantage of the city services as well. She's very enthusiastic in working throughout the community. And I'm sure that she has either reached out to you or you can reach out to her in order to find opportunities that we can share between city resources and the district.
Can I add, she also met with me, and we're working
She's
on
very
partnerships and
enthusiastic.
promoting. Ms. Nimmer set up the
Yeah.
meeting, and she got on one of my one-minute message updates to promote libraries.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next item, Madam Secretary.
Next item, action items. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below.
Just a reminder, there's 2 supplements at the table.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Recommended action, move that action items numbered 1 through 16 be approved as recommended in this agenda.
Support.
Who moved? Oh, okay.
Did you say moved? Trustee D'Ambrosio said moved.
Oh, I didn't hear. I just heard support. Okay.
Support.
So we have,
Petrikov.
So moved.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Motion was moved by Trustee Petrikov, supported by Trustee D'Ambrosio. Are there any discussions? Any questions? Hearing none, please attach, is there any objections to the motion? Okay, hearing none, please attach a unanimous vote adopting the motion. Next item, please.
Summary of agenda action items. Number 1, approval of warrants. Number 2, approval of an award to IST Ohio, Inc. per Board Report 2370. Number 3, approval of an award to Stepping Stones Group. Number 4, approval of an award to Equar. Number 5 through 6, approval of change orders. Number 7, approval of an award to Global Green Service Group. Number 8, approval of the district school safety liaison and alternate. Number 9 through 12, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12. Number 13, approval of financial statement per Board Report 23-73. Number 14, approval of donations. Number 15, appointment of special ed coordinator. And number 16, millage proposal.
Thank you. Dr. Maleko?
Yes, so I would like to call up, thank you, Vice President Barry. I'd like to call up Deanna Saad, who was just approved as a coordinator officially. She's been in the interim role, now she's official. Let's give her a big round of applause and we'll have her come up. We're very excited to have her on the team.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I'd like to thank the board, Dr. Maleko, Mr. Asali, and all of my colleagues for this opportunity. More importantly, I'd like to thank all the families and the students that I've worked with throughout these years. I've learned so much from them. I'd also like to thank my family, my mom, Hala, my dad, Hamzi, my sisters, Amanda and Mona, my niece, Hannah, and lastly, my love, Hamoudi, and my angel, Salma and Medina. Thank you for being so supportive and kind. I love you guys. I'm looking forward to a great rest of the school year. Thank you.
Congratulations. By the way, Dad was smiling ear to ear. Next item, please.
Next item, discussion item, boundary line exemption.
So as Mr. Mashur comes up here, basically this is something that's been going through the Board Policy Committee, and I know Trustee Watts reported out on it. There's been a recommendation from the Policy Committee to eliminate the current boundary line process, and the administration agrees with that recommendation. So we've been working together for several months. And again, the Policy Committee, it's been very good meetings. So this is the plan is to, the next month, to actually have an action item, since we've already talked about it here through the Policy Committee. Right now, we have it as a discussion item, and then we would eliminate the process. Officially, the board would have to take action to remove the policy at the next meeting, if the board is comfortable with that. If there's any questions, we have Mr. Mashur here for questions. Just for extenuating circumstances and things we need to deal with, administration always has that ability, but the actual process of boundary line exemption.
Are there any questions for Mr. Mashur? Boy, they brought you over here.
Good evening.
What happens when somebody has a hardship, severe hardship of not attending a school? How do they go about the process? Because this process has been there for a long time, and some families have gotten the approval of changing schools based on the hardship that they showed. And right now, what happens?
Currently, what happens, or in the future?
No, in the future, once
if we eliminate
approve
this process?
the removal of this policy.
So if, for example, usually I rely on our building administrators because they know the families a lot better than I do with their situation. So sometimes building administrators will reach out and inform us about the complexities that a family is going through or whatever. For example, we just got one today, an email from a parent and from a principal and the school nurse that discussed a young lady who was having a lot of health issues and needed an immediate transfer to the virtual school. Fortunately, we still, in her grade at least, had some space, so it was easier to make it work.
I would say too, like for very extenuating circumstances, administration always has the right to make a move in the best interest of the student. But this process of family, applications coming through, that process will be eliminated. So we will have very few moves unless there's some extenuating reason.
There's always going to be some. We have 20,000 students, so you're always going to have some situations. But for the most part, it'll be a lot more where we're kind of digging deeper into the issues and meeting with the families and things of that nature. Like right now, for example, in the over the summer for the for the start of the school year, we'll generally get over 250 applications. You're not going to meet, nobody has the time, unfortunately, to meet with 250 parents and listen to their entire situations. So I think this way, you might have 15, 20 people throughout the course of the year that have some very difficult situations where a school transfer makes a lot of sense. We live in the gray, so.
Trustee Petrikov?
How are we going to communicate this? Because parents have become accustomed and word of mouth throughout the district of, go ahead, move if you like a different school.
Right.
So how are we going to make sure that it's communicated throughout the district that this is no longer just going to be come this time of year, start sending in your requests?
Yeah, I'd rely on the expertise of Mr. David Mustin.
I can comment on that. That's one of the reasons why we want to get this approved, and we talked
Early.
about it in the policy by January, so we can get notice out. So it won't take effect second semester. This will be for next school year.
Okay.
For the September, not for the semester. We don't think it's fair, those that put in applications, and administration recommended as well, waiting until September
Next
or August
September.
of next year.
Right.
Getting that information out, and so that people are aware. So really what's going to happen is it's going to be very important that people look at the inter-district boundaries. And if you want to go to a certain school, we have them on our website. Those are the areas that people would need to reside in order to go to those schools.
That was discussed, and that's why we're
Right.
trying to get it out on the January.
I wasn't at
budget.
last month's meeting, so.
Yeah.
you're-
Yeah, that's
Oh,
fine.
yes, that's
The other thing I want to bring up, which came out of the Student Services Committee, I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, those who have an active BLE
Yes.
will be allowed to remain at that school until they advance to the next level. So a BLE to elementary school will remain in effect until that student completes fifth grade, moves on. Same thing for middle school, moves on to high school.
Correct.
Which is very, very important, so we're not disrupting people's lives, so.
Yeah. And you'll still have, so everyone's aware, the request to remain. A request to remain, for example, if a student usually, and it's honored for the semester usually, so let's say a student starts at, a Long Elementary. Start at Long Elementary in the school year. In March, your family decides to move. If your attendance is good, behavior is good, academics are good, then the principal at Long Elementary, who's Mrs. Peterson, would reach out and say, hey, I want to allow this, even though the address, because once you change the address, that's the thing, there's so many little intricacies that people don't understand. Once you change the address in the computer, it defaults to the school, and there's different paperwork and state reporting and so on that all they're intertwined with that. So yes, that's a very, very good point, Mr. Berry, with regards to the BLE. Anything that has been approved will still be intact until that child finishes the level, the elementary, middle, or high school.
It was a very good point you brought up, but Long Elementary was a bad example.
Was fresh in my mind.
Trustee McDonald?
Just to clarify, with the request to remain, that's just for 1 year?
Correct. That's for the duration
Finish
of
out
that
that
school
year,
year or the
school year.
semester if it happens early in the year, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Board of Education business, acknowledgements or correspondence.
Seeing none. Next item, please.
Next item, board member committee and organization reports, and I'll just continue on if that's
Please.
fine with policy. So policy met earlier today. The first thing we discussed was the BLE that we are just mentioning right there. The other thing that we had discussed was in wake of Oxford shooting, there was a very lengthy report that came out, and we made sure that, unfortunately, some of the recommendations or pitfalls, perhaps, that the district was cited for, we wanted to make sure that our district had those policies and guidelines and bylaws. So one of the things that we looked at was policy 7217 that deals with weapons. Within that, that was updated so that it was current. The previous weapon policy, I believe, was back in 2000, was in last revised in 2019. Since then, we had some case law that had changed that no longer allowed those who carry CPL to have weapons on premises within 1,000 feet of school property. So our weapons policy is now going to be updated with some Neola suggestions. With that, there were some other things that with our safety specialist, Daniela Alzayat, is recommending. It'll be discussed during the crisis committee meeting that is coming up, along with making sure that all of our threat assessments, currently all of our social workers, counselors, and psychologists have training for their threat assessments. That'll be reiterated with the principals going forward as well. It's never a new thing, but it's more, unfortunately, an ongoing and updating of policies with our staff. Before I move on, was there anything else, Dr. Mleko, within the safety policies that I missed? Okay.
Can I just add to that, that today there was a news article in the Detroit News with the state looking at taking on a whole state policy for threat assessment training, and Wayne Reese is already providing that, and I don't know where, yeah. And they also have trained the trainer through that program, so I'm assuming we're taking advantage of whatever.
We actually worked with Wayne Reese last February, and that's where we got all our social workers, counselors, and psychologists training. So they've been trained as of last February.
So we're ahead of the game compared to some other districts, it appears.
And we have safety on every single administrator agenda that I run with Ms. Alzayat and myself. And as Mr. Saley said, we have training coming up on that threat assessment for administrators and how to refer. So it is a top priority, school safety in the district.
Next policy that we reviewed, or Mr. Mustonen did, was policy 5112. That was the kindergarten age requirement. The old verbiage was December 1st, which was quite a few years ago, so he's updated that to September 1st. It was just something that he found while browsing in the middle of the night. Policy 8500, food service. There was just a few changes to the verbiage that just needed to get cleaned up. Policy 8531, the free and reduced priced meals. That was updated with current law, and Trustee McDonald has suggested that because our district has been providing free meals, that we put something in the policy that if that were to change, that would be a financial hardship for our parents, that we would be able to allow them, and we're not anticipating it to change. But if it were to change in the future, that would be a financial hardship that may present to some families that would have to be budgeted. So we'd like to give them as much notice as possible in the future, but this was not something we're expecting.
Is this in reference to what the state has now changed in funding for free lunches throughout the whole entire state coming in? I think,
Yeah, this doesn't
2025?
impact us because we were one of the first districts, again, to
Already,
get the CEP
right.
through the federal government, so it doesn't impact us if there were ever any changes. Wayne County, yeah, there's funding coming in and they're going to accept it throughout, so everyone is going to get it, but it doesn't impact us because we're already a full funded, it's called CEP.
So we'll still be using
Yes.
the system we've been
Correct.
under,
Yes.
rather than signing on to
So,
what the new
yeah, other
state-
Wayne County districts that are not in that, they would have to comply with the new.
Right,
Sign up.
okay.
Two additional policies, 7410, maintenance. We just added some verbiage that designated that we would have to be required to have ADA compliant parking spaces. And the last one, policy was policy 5517.01, the bullying behavior. We were able to, Mr. Mustin's talents is being able to reconfigure what we would like to put on there and made it sound, and clean it up a little bit. So we have now a definition of bullying. However, we're gonna take it back and probably revisit it a few more times because we wanted to find, right now, the school responsibility was very specific as to how many events and what that would look like. We had then moved to having it tied to the strategic plan, but I think we discussed maybe having something different because the strategic plan speaks to something that if you're in the education world and it's very edu-speak, but I think for parents, if you're looking at that policy, you went from having very specific, this is how many events, to now talking about SEL and MTT. Like, it's just too much. Or I take it back. It's not specific, and I think it doesn't include all of the aspect of what we were thinking. We wanted it to be a village versus staff, students, and so where the parents' participation in that. And something that parents then can refer back to and say, okay, this is what the school are doing versus throwing acronyms that, quite honestly, they don't understand. So, and trying to get more feedback from the buildings as well. And I believe that is it. Is there anything that I missed?
No, well done.
Great job.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's it for reports, right? Are there any other reports? No. Next item, please.
Board member and superintendent commentary.
Dr. Maleko?
Just tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m., City Beautiful breakfast. So we're going to have a lot of students there. It's always a positive event. I'll be there with the mayor, and I know some of our other administrators will as well. So. And the other thing I just want to mention was that last month I did mention the correspondence I got from the Kindness Squad over at Miller. I was able to see them live at the PTA council meeting. It was fantastic. It's a great concept, and we taped a 1-minute message, and they were so excited, and the kids really do great things. As I was walking in, they were welcoming me, real positive vibes, you know, can I help you? And they have their Kindness Squad shirts that they're wearing, so I just think it's a great. I am out also going, and I was just talking to Mr. Mustard, and next month, I give an address before all the superintendents. I talked to them about kindness back in September. We're going to mention the Kindness Squad here at Miller Elementary. So appreciate the work they're doing over there.
Great. Like Dr. Maleko mentioned earlier, this is our last meeting this year. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy holiday season and everybody enjoy their break. Next item, please.
Just
Trustee Moser?
yeah. Our students at all high schools, Edsel Ford, Dearborn, and Fordson, as well as Crestwood, our neighboring district, are organizing a charity volleyball match that will happen at Edsel Ford High School on the 15th from 6 to 8, and it will benefit students and children in Gaza. So the entry is $10, and I'm looking forward to attending that, and hopefully everyone can support that good cause.
Thank you for bringing that up, and I'd like to say thank you, Mr. William Holly, for being the spark plug again. He started that. Trustee McDonald.
I just want to add something back into the kindness vein, and that's a wonderful event. I'm looking forward to that as well. But it is the holiday season, so everyone enjoy the holidays, enjoy the time off with your family. But I just want everyone to practice patience because everybody gets involved in the hustle and bustle. The weather gets bad, whatever the case may be, and you're so worried about getting this done or getting that done or getting to this event. Take a deep breath, practice calm, make it there in a safe way, and look out for other people and practice kindness.
Good.
So
Thank you.
just a little addition to that thought.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next item, please.
I agree with what you were saying, yes. Requests for information and or future agenda items.
Next item, please.
Future meeting dates, Monday, December 11th, 2023, HFC Board of Trustees meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom. Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, P12 Finance Committee meeting, 5:30 at the Administrative Service Center in the Superintendent Conference Room. Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, P12 Organization meeting, 6:15 at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. Tuesday, January 9th, 2024, board meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. And finally, Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, HFC Board of Trustees meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom.
Thank you. It's 8:19, and we are adjourned.
Okay, don't move, we need a picture.